House of Representatives will now come to order. Leading us in our prayer this afternoon is Pastor Yagana Yakuba of the Fort Pierre Ministerial Association, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance led by Morgan Christensen of Volga and Jace Fernandez of Kadoka. Please rise.
Let's pray. Dear Holy Spirit, we want to welcome your presence here in this building, here in this room, and into our hearts. We ask that, Lord, you come and guide whatever is going to be discussed here, oh God. Lord, we ask for grace and wisdom. Today, Lord, we want to also lift our governor, Lord, before the throne of your grace. We ask that you continue to give him good health, wisdom, understanding, and discerning, even as he governor us, we the people of South Dakota. Be with us all and be with all the House representatives. Shield them with your power and give them the grace to lead. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will please call the roll.
Representative Andera, Arlett, Auk, Elward, Baumüller, Bathke, Baxter, Sismowski, DeGroot, Derby, Duffy, Emery, Fitzgerald, Fosness, Garcia, Goodwin, Gosh, Greenfield, Helverson, Healy, Heerman, Heineman, Hughes, Hunt, Ismay, Jameson, Jensen, Jordan, Jorgensen, Casson, Kaiser, Colbeck, Call, Ladner, Lems, Manhart, Massey, May, Moore, Mortensen, Muckey, Mullally, Mulder, Knowles, Norstrup, Odenbach, Overweg, Peterson, Poyer, Randolph, Rayfelt, Reimer, Reich, Rice, Roby, Rowe, Schaefbauer, Schwanz, Shorma, Schubeck, Sharda, Soy, Stevens, Uribulk, Van Diepen, Wahlberg, Weems, Weisgram, Whitman, Speaker Hansen.
Here.
Mr. Speaker, there is a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to invite our pages up to the front for their oath of office. Can you all stand up and turn your attention this way? Raise up your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of page according to the best of my abilities. Congratulations and welcome. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Approval of the journal.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that the Chief Clerk of the House has had under consideration the House Journal of the 33rd day. All errors, typographical or otherwise, are duly marked in the temporary journal for correction, and we hereby move the adoption of the report. Respectfully submitted, John Hanson, Chair.
That motion having been made and seconded, are there any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the journal will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Communications.
Mr. Speaker and members of the House of Representatives, I have the honor to inform you that on March 9th, 2026, I approved House Bills 1041, 1046, 1062, 1084, 1126, 1143, 1146, 1162, 1169, 1188, 1001, 1007, 1101, and 1219, and the same have been deposited in the office of the Secretary of State. Respectfully submitted, Larry Roden, Governor.
Reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that the Office of Engrossing and Enrolling has carefully compared House Bill 1045, 1108, 1138, 1161, 1175, 1183, 1232, 1245, 1258, 1280, 1298, 1299, and 1300, and finds the same correctly enrolled. Respectfully submitted, John Hanson, Chair. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Legislative Procedure respectfully reports that House Bill 1066, 1095, 1195, 1254, 1257, 1265, 1286, and 1313 were delivered to His Excellency the Governor for his approval at 9:21 a.m., March 9th, 2026. Respectfully submitted, John Hanson, Chair.
Messages.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to return herewith House Bill 1220, which has been amended by the Senate, and your concurrence in the amendments is requested. Also, Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Senate has concurred in House amendments to Senate Bill 1541, 90, 131, 132, and 214. Also, Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to return herewith House Bill 1045, 1108, 1138, 1161, 1175, 1183, 1232, 1245, 1258, 1280, 1298, 1299, and 1300, which have passed the Senate without change. Also, Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that House Bill 1040 was lost on second reading and final passage. Respectfully, Peggy Lorenz, Secretary.
Motions and resolutions.
Representative Odenbach moved that when we adjourn today, we adjourn to convene at 11 a.m. on Tuesday, March 10th, the 35th legislative day.
That Odenbach motion having been made and seconded, are there any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Odenbach motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Representative Rayfelt moved that the House do not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1200, and that a committee of 3 on the part of the House be appointed to meet with a like committee on the part of the Senate to adjust the differences between the two houses.
Is there a second? That motion having been made and seconded. Thank you. Are there any remarks? Representative Rayfelt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I would ask that you support this motion. We are hopefully coming to a good consensus point on where this dollar amount will be. And it sounds like the appropriators have been doing their due diligence, and I thank them for that.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Rayfelt motion? Any further remarks? Seeing none, then the question before the House is the Rayfelt motion that the House do not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1200 and that a conference committee be appointed. All those in favor of the Rayfelt motion will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Sharda.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Up in the gallery behind us, I'd like to introduce Patriot Ripple Effect, also known as PRE. They're a constitutional conservative organization compiled by South Dakota citizen volunteers who work to ensure a free future for our citizens, counties, and state through effective grassroots engagement. Patriot Ripple Effect works to educate, inform, and inspire citizens to act locally to preserve liberty and transparency in government, from school board to statewide office elections. And they also served us our hot dog lunch today, so thank them and welcome them.
Overweight votes aye.
Representative Knowles.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, folks, I am blessed with 8 nieces and nephews, and I got 50% of them here today, but online is my sister Courtney and her 4 kiddos, Holly, Isla, Carol, and James are watching at home. But with me today, I have my sister Amanda and my 4 nieces and nephews. I got 2 up there, Scarlett and Thorn, Alex and Croy. So if you could all welcome them today, thank you.
Mortensen votes aye.
Representative Ismay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Privilege.
Granted.
In the balcony up here above me here, I've got my youngest son, Bruce. If you guys wouldn't mind standing up so they can see, especially you, Bruce. Come on, guys. You can do it. There you go. There's Bruce Ismay, my youngest daughter, Casey, and my soon-to-be grandson is right there too. My son-in-law, Trey Jones, my son, Ben Ismay, my mom, which is also a microbiologist. I thought that was kind of cool, but and then my dad, John Ismay.
Representative Baxter.
Personal privilege?
Granted.
Thank you. Just want to wish a happy birthday to the fine gentleman in front of me representing Lincoln and Minnehaha County.
Representative May.
Representative Mullally. Granted.
Thank you. It's not often I take a personal privilege, but today there's a man in the gallery that has the patience of a saint. He's one who has had to deal with me for 5 times longer than anyone in this body. So please give a sympathetic but enthusiastic welcome to my husband, Dan.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 59, nays 10, excused 1.
The Rayfeld motion, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared carried. The House does not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1200, and a conference committee will be appointed. Speaker announces as appointments to such committee Representative Rayfeld, Casson, and Kaiser.
Representative Garcia, move that the House do not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1209, and that a committee of 3 on the part of the House be appointed to meet with the like committee on the part of the Senate to adjust the differences between the 2 houses.
That Garcia motion having been made and seconded, any remarks on your motion, Representative Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and this esteemed body. I'm asking you to please vote green to reconsider House Bill 1209, how it has been amended by the Senate. We did better in the House, and Section 2 really is disturbing, so I'd like that we could get a committee together and perfect it better where we could really do some good here. So please vote green. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Garcia motion? Any further remarks? Seeing none, then the motion before the House is the Garcia motion that the House do not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1209 and that a conference committee be appointed. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Sharda.
Personal privilege.
Granted.
Some more introductions. On the floor next to me here, I have Gunnar, Maverick, and Macy. They're here on homeschool day. They're learning about the government today. They're here with their dad, Adam, up in the gallery up there. And also up there is my parents, John Sharda and Marla Sharda. They came to see how I was doing here. They watch at home usually, but today they want to come in person and see what we do. So please welcome them all.
Representative Fitzgerald. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 62, nays 7, excused 1.
The Garcia motion, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared carried. The House does not concur in Senate amendments to House Bill 1209, and a conference committee will be appointed. Speaker announces appointments to such conference committee. Representatives Odenbach, Garcia, and Healy. Representative Jameson. Granted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Maybe a slice of leeway.
Okay, granted.
So if we could, have all of the appropriators stand and maybe go up to the front there. I think there's 8 of you, 7 of you, 9. If you guys could stand and go up to the front for us, please. Pardon me? Oh. And even the one representative that had a temporary stay, I think if she could come, I don't see her. So the point here is these are the appropriators that have worked tirelessly to put our budget together. You know, all of us get to talk about and do different topics, you know, whether it's about the voting rights and mechanisms in play, whether it's about a gun law or a new felony, horses, butterflies, you know, a lot of different topics. But these guys work day in and day out about our budget, and they really have carried a heavy lift. And they continue to carry that lift. Even after we get done here today, they'll go back to work while we kind of become virtually done. So in an attempt to appreciate the appropriators, we've put together a long list of pies out in the lobby. We've got apple pie, pecan pie, pumpkin pie, cherry pie. Even I think there's a chocolate pie out there. But we want you guys to have the first slice of those pies, and I hope that you enjoy them. There's enough pie for the rest of us, but we'd like to have you guys go first, and to show our appreciation, we'd sure like to give you an applause right now.
Representative Ismay.
I have one more privilege, sir.
Granted.
I know I've already announced him, but I just want to make a special announcement for my dad. He was inducted into the South Dakota Hall of Fame this year. There's so many awards here, it's ridiculous. But Agribusinessman of the Year, South Dakota Quarter Horse Association Award, Promoter of the Breed, World of Rodeo Reunion Award 2020, South Dakota Veterinarian of the Year. And I just want everyone to know that I am so proud of my dad, and I just, please give him a hand.
Consideration of committee reports.
Representative Odenbach moved that the reports of the standing committees on appropriations on Senate Bill 106, as found on page 520 of the House Journal, also Senate Bill 119, as found on page 521 of the House Journal, and Senate Bill 121, as found on page 521 of the House Journal, be adopted.
That Odenbach motion having been made and seconded, are there any remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Odenbach motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Second reading of Senate bills.
Senate Bill 244, an act to address issues facing South Dakota.
Senate Bill 244, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Randolph, you have a motion, sir.
I do. Sorry, I was busy. I'd love to table Senate Bill 244, please. Motion to table.
The Randolph motion having been made and seconded to table. Senate Bill 244 is a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of the motion to table will vote aye. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Garcia.
Personal privilege, please, Mr. Speaker.
Granted.
I hear today it is Representative Hughes' birthday. So I would like us all to just stand up and say happy birthday.
Got another Rapid City Mayor thing going on.
Representative Goodwin. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 66, nays 3, excused 1.
The Randolph motion, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared carried. Senate Bill 244 is tabled.
Senate Bill 74, an act to transfer monies to the general fund from the Budget Reserve Fund and the General Revenue Replacement Fund, and to declare an emergency.
Senate Bill 74, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Casson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 74A is part of our budgeting process. This transfers money into the Budget Reserve Fund and the General Revenue Replacement Fund. Those two taken together are known as our Rainy Day Fund. The Senate passed this with a substantial amount of money in there. We amended it to $101 for the Budget Reserve, $101 for the General Revenue Replacement Fund in order to get it to conference later. There's other bills that we will hear today that will impact these particular numbers. So we just want to make sure the numbers are correct as the budget discussions progress. So I'd appreciate your green vote as we move this forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 74? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question for the House is final passage of Senate Bill 74. Due to the emergency clause, Senate Bill 74 does require a 2/3 vote. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Peterson votes aye. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 55, nays 14, excused 1.
Senate Bill 74, having received a 2/3 vote, the majority of members elect is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
Senate Bill 221, an act to regulate the retail sale of nicotine products and to provide a penalty therefor.
Senate Bill 221, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Mulder.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I have an amendment to make on 221.
Is that Amendment 221G?
It is.
Has it been distributed online?
It is.
You wish
It
to move it
has.
at this time?
I wish to move 221G at this time.
That motion to amend Senate Bill 221 with Amendment 221G having been made and seconded. Remarks on your motion, Representative Mulder.
Thank you. It was just stakeholder input that have moved some opponents to proponents, and I'll explain it as we move forward.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Mulder motion to amend. Representative Fitzgerald.
I have a question for the Prime.
State your question.
I'm looking here at section 7, page 4. The felony convictions are for a felony related to a financial crime, sale or distribution of nicotine products or alcohol, or a crime related to a controlled substance. So my question to you would be, if you're convicted of rape, robbery, or murder, you can have a license? Thank you.
Representative Mulder, do you wish to answer that question?
I can attempt to. I'm pretty sure that it provides in another area for the expanse of that, but no, you can not have a felony within 3 years of this. So that's what it has to do with. So no felony within 3 years of owning a license.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Fitzgerald?
Yes, a follow-up. Could you
State
show
your
me where
question.
that's at in the bill? Thank you.
Representative Mulder, do you wish to answer that question?
I cannot find that right now.
Thank you. Follow-up or remarks? Representative Fitzgerald, anything further?
No, I think he answered my question by not answering it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on the Mulder motion to amend? Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, question for the House is the Mulder motion to amend Senate Bill 221 with Amendment 221G. This is a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion to amend will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are now on Senate Bill 221 as amended. Representative Mulder.
Thank you, and I'll address that question here in a second. Last year, this legislative body and in the years before began conversations about vape and other nicotine products, these alternative products being sold in vape shops. I'm sure you've heard a lot about them in the last 24 months, if not longer. These products are part of a fast-growing industry, and there is no state oversight of these products. We do not know where and by whom these products are sold. Senate Bill 221 sets out a framework for requiring people who are selling cigarettes, tobacco products, vape products, and other alternative nicotine products to be licensed as a nicotine retailer. South Dakota is one of 9 states that do not have a licensing requirement for retailers to sell cigarettes, tobacco products, vape products, or other alternative nicotine products. This is not a new concept to require accountability and transparency when selling these products. We have licensing and compliance requirements for alcohol and gaming retailers. We allow people to sell those products and services for 21+ consumers, but we also expect certain accountability in exchange. This bill sets up a system for retailers of nicotine products to allow us to understand where nicotine products are being sold. This framework is similar to the license requirements we apply to 21+ products and service retailers. This bill provides for compliance through graduated sanctions for retailers of these products who do not meet the obligations of selling these 21+ products. This policy is important to South Dakota for public health. Senate Bill 221 uses proven public health policy to address the drivers of youth exposure and access to these products by making it clear where and how nicotine products can be sold. And this bill holds those who do not meet those standards accountable. Data will tell us 25% of South Dakota youth are using one or more of these products that are regulated at a retail level by this bill. We know that younger children start using nicotine, it's more likely they become addicted and become a lifelong user. We know that there are significant costs associated with nicotine addiction to an individual user in our healthcare system and to our state. Preventing youth access to these products is important, and nicotine retail licensing helps prevent youth access to these products. This bill allows good actors to sell legal products and on a level playing field. And this bill provides sanctions for bad actors who are not playing by the rules. Senate Bill 221 allows for lawful adult behavior while balancing the reality that youth addiction to these products begins with access. By ensuring that this is a framework, by ensuring that there is a framework for the sale of all nicotine products and consequences for noncompliance, we can address the youth use of these products in a way that is not punitive to retailers. Let's go ahead and get our arms around the sale of these products and make sure that these products are only sold to legal adults in an accountable and transparent way. And as far as the question before on the amendment, it's my understanding that specific felonies allow for a second chance, to give a second chance, and that's why it's written the way it's addressed in the bill.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 221. Representative Weisgram.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I was a no in committee, but I must compliment the prime sponsor here in the House. He was very willing to continue to work with stakeholders. This latest amendment is the product of his dedication to making this bill work, so I will be supporting, and I hope that you will too. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 221. Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of Senate Bill 221. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Chizmowski. I always just wanted to say that at least once this year.
I answer better to that. That's just fine. So, all right. Well, I have a fun one here today for you. I rise to honor a family friend. In fact, she is my aunt's sister, and they are up in Webster, South Dakota, Bethesda Nursing Home, having a party. I think the mayor's there, and they're having a party watching all of the excitement that goes on here right now. But I stand before you because we are here to honor Alice Simonson of Day County, who is believed to be the oldest citizen of this state. Alice turned 108 this past January, so therefore be it commemorated by the 101st legislature of the state of South Dakota that Alice Simonson is believed to be the oldest living South Dakotan, having spent 106 of her 108 years in Day County, where she continues to reside after more than a century of contributing to her community and serving as a witness to the history of this state. This idea came about when I was visiting my aunt. Betty, if you're watching, Aunt Betty Rohde is my last living aunt. And at the age of 92, she's just kind of a spring chicken. And she said, you know, I think my sister might be the oldest person in Day County. And I said, 108, I think she's the oldest person in South Dakota. And after the research that we did, that's what we came up with. So we stand and honor her with a legislative commemoration, but a surprise to Alice is the fact that this good news spreads. And I'm holding an executive proclamation from the state of South Dakota Office of the Governor. Whereas Alice Simon was born Alice Bakken in McGregor, North Dakota, January 4th, 1918, and moved with her family to Day County, South Dakota 2 years later. And whereas she married Oscar Simonson on June 11th, 1938, and had been married 75 years when he passed away. Whereas she was blessed with a son, daughter, 2 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchildren, and whereas she kept detailed farm records, tracking income and expenses for the entire time she and her husband farmed. Those records are now housed in a library collection at South Dakota State University and have been digitized for access. And whereas she has been celebrated for the quality of her sewing, her hand-stitched quilts, her gardening, her canning, her vivid memories of the Dust Bowl years of 1930s, and the coming of rural electrification, which she noted as one of the biggest events that changed her life. Whereas she was a lifetime member of Bergen Lutheran Church in northern Dade County, later became a member of St. John's Lutheran Church in Webster, and also served on the original board that built Sundial Manor in Bristol, South Dakota. Webster being my hometown as well, I'm just enjoying the fact that we've got some fun going back to Webster, and the fact that Alice is just one of us true South Dakotans. And she's also survived 101 of these legislative sessions, because she was born before we started doing this. So I guess that's evidence we will survive. So, and in final, we celebrate and honor Alice Simonson's remarkable life, legacy, and contributions to her family, community, and her state. Now, therefore, Larry Roden, Governor of the state of South Dakota, do hereby proclaim March 9th, 2026 as Alice Simonson Day in the state of South Dakota. Signed, Larry Roden.
Representative Norstrup. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 66, nays 3, excused 1.
Senate Bill 221, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
Senate Bill 245, an act to create the Homeowner Property Tax Reduction Fund and to transfer monies to the Homeowner Property Tax Reduction Fund.
Senate Bill 245, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Hansen.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and members of the House. It is truly an honor to be before you today to present Senate Bill 245, which aims to address, I think, the biggest issue that we face as a state today, which is excessive burdens of high property taxes. And I think if you go across the state, you'll hear it from all of our constituents across South Dakota. There are people that are struggling with high property taxes. And it's across the board. It's individuals who are grandparents on a fixed income. It's families who have kids and are just trying to buy the shoes for the sporting events. It's young couples who are just getting started out. Everybody is feeling the effects of high property taxes. And so what can we do? What can we come together on to deliver a solution for the people of this state? I think what we have in Senate Bill 245 is that solution. Is it perfect? No. Do some want more? Do some want less? Absolutely. But I think Senate Bill 245 represents something that I believe that we can all come together on and say, this is real relief for property taxpayers in South Dakota. This is obviously not a new issue, and I think no one person can take credit for what's in Senate Bill 245. We've been talking about this issue for years. I remember some members years ago coming and saying, we got to address this. And it takes a long time to build that consensus, to try to bring people together as much as possible and say, what's the solution? What's the right answer? How can we get something across the finish line that's going to deliver for the people of our state, deliver the property tax reduction that they're so desperately crying out for? I think this is the answer. Senate Bill 245 is at least part of that answer. And so, as you're probably well aware, Senate Bill 245, what it will do is it creates the Homeowner Property Tax Reduction Fund. You know, we used to have a property tax reduction fund in our state, got eliminated a while back. This would recreate that fund, and then it would dedicate the revenue that's going to come in to our state when our sunset triggers. As you all know, right now our sales tax rate is at 4.2%. It's going to go to 4.5%. And I know there's been other conversations that I've been a part of trying to make that sales tax relief permanent. And none of those efforts have come to fruition. That money's coming back into the state. And so the question is going to be, what are we going to do with it? And I think the most appropriate way to use that money is to give it right back to the people of this state in terms of property tax relief, which is the most pressing issue that we face as the state of South Dakota. And so it's going to capture that revenue and put it right back into the people's pockets in the form of lower property taxes by buying down the general education levy. And then in the meantime, because that's going to take a while to go into effect, we're going to use some one-time money that we have in our savings and give that back to the people as well in the form of property tax relief. I think that this is, the right answer. I think this is the answer that the people have been calling out for. And, you know, we've heard these stories. Can't mention names on the floor, but we've heard stories from people all across the state who can't afford their property taxes. And if we don't do something significant for them, there are people in this state that are going to be forced out of their homes. Forced out of their homes because of high property taxes. That's something that we can fix. That doesn't have to be in South Dakota. We can address that, and we can do that with this bill. This bill, I think, is about coming together on a shared solution. It's about throwing down politics and ideologies and everything, and just coming together on a solution that we can support. I think our constituents demand that we do that. Set aside the differences and come together on a solution. This is that solution. And so I'd be very grateful for your support of Senate Bill 245. Thank you.
Are there any further remarks on Senate Bill 245? Representative Weisgram.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I think the previous speaker did a great job, and okay, we're just going to talk about, I have an amendment, I'm sorry. It's 245H.
All right, you have an amendment on Senate Bill 245, and that is Amendment H.
Correct.
Has it been distributed?
It is online.
All right, do you wish to move it at this time?
I do.
All right, the Weisgram motion to amend Senate Bill 245 with Amendment H having been made and seconded is up for consideration. Are there any further remarks?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I think the previous speaker did a really good job of explaining the program, but this amendment does not take or does not apply all of the increase from 4.2 to 4.5 to property tax relief. It applies $60 million. The expected income from the 4.2 to 4.5 is $110 million. So it's just about over half of that amount. So why am I bringing this amendment? Well, we now have the certainty that SB 96 has passed. And I believe that not only have we heard the clamor for property tax relief, but I think our county commissioners have also. So I think that this will be somewhat of a rapid acknowledgement and the opportunity for SB 96 to go throughout the state, which means a 0.5% property tax increase to offset property tax, or 0.5% sales tax increase. So now I look at the amount of money that we'll be devoting to this property tax relief fund, and I'm saying, I think we're overcompensating. As an employer, former employer, I needed to be nimble to account for not only what I expect changes will be in the following year, but the changes that I can't foresee. And I can't put all my eggs in one basket. I need to be more conservative than that to make sure I'm a good steward of the business and the people that work for me. I also think that you can see that we are just clawing to get 1.4% increase for the big three. And I don't think any of us are proud of that. So the additional $50 million that would be anticipated from the 4.2 to 4.5 surely is not dedicated in this amendment, but it's up to the good judgment of future legislators to put it in a good place. So, members of the House, I want you to truly think about being a good steward of the commitments that we have and vote yes on this amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Are there any further remarks on Senate Bill 245H? Further remarks, Representative Hughes?
Thank you. I'm going to vote against the amendment. I'll tell you why. The success of the single-family homeowner in South Dakota is the best indicator of our financial health. And all of the individuals that the previous speaker mentioned in support of his amendment will benefit from this property tax relief. And another reason, I'd rather give them property tax relief, frankly, real property tax relief. In the Sioux Falls metro area, the median home price is $322,000. This is going to be real relief. The other thing is that we passed SB 96 not as a certainty, but as a temporary targeted stopgap measure if the county wants to implement it. It may be some counties will look at SB 245 once we fully implement it and decide not to implement the 0.5% increase. So let's. It almost seems like we're afraid of success. Is that what's? I mean, we have $250 million in reserve. Our state is flush with cash, and there's no reason to assume that we're going to go backwards because we've been going forwards for decades. So please vote against the amendment and let's pass this bill as written.
Any further remarks on Senate Bill 245H? Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I rise in opposition to this amendment. I hope you'll decide to vote red on it. I think 245H, the H stands for half. We're cutting in half what we need to be doing for the property taxpayers. It's time we started prioritizing those guys. And I know the good sponsor mentioned concerns about the folks that we would rather spend the money on rather than giving tax relief. And I've kind of reminded the body of some of these numbers before when I had asked LRC, how are we doing in our budgets for the people that are spending all the taxes? And since 2022, state government went up 35.8%, K-12 education up 39.8%, county government up 31.4%, and that's on a state population change that's only plus 4.3%. And as far as K-12 enrollment, that's only up 0.87%. So those folks have fared not too bad since 2022. I know there's been inflation of around 18%, but I was thinking about a good analogy for this, and I think it might be a banquet. SB 96 was just the appetizers, right? It's optional, targeted, little small bites, might not even be served. And SB 245, without this amendment, is the meal. And your guests who are coming to the banquet ordered property tax relief for their entree. And just as it's about to be delivered, you're telling the server, cut it in half. They don't get what they ordered. In an election year. And they're watching today. So I would ask you to vote red on this amendment and then vote green on 245, and let's do something real for the taxpayers finally. Thank you.
Further remarks on Senate Bill 245H. Representative Rayfeld.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I rise today in support of the amendment. What I all think we need to remember today is that our goal is good. I think everyone in this room truly desires to deliver property tax relief and relief for all South Dakota families. And as the good representative from Del Rapids mentioned earlier, families are struggling. But it's not only homeowners that are struggling in our state. It goes beyond just homeowners. Senate Bill 96 was passed this last week, and it was a 0.5% sales tax reduction potential. That's a really good thing. In the bigger picture, that's going to be a great thing for the communities that adopt it. When you couple that with what we're doing today, we're putting 0.8% potentially toward just property tax relief. When we consider that all together, I think it's really important that we consider those families that are not just property owners, and that we consider those families that don't own properties themselves. And part of our responsibility in this room is to think about how all of the decisions that we make go together. We can't just think about one thing that we do in a silo. We do need to think about it as a bigger picture, as a strategy. When we think about the big three, there's tight margins. We've seen that. It's 1.4% for them this year. And I'm afraid if we keep making these decisions that only prioritize homeowners, we're going to forget about the other people in our state that need our help. Schools, salaries, classrooms, rural school sustainability, long-term care, workforce, rising costs, facilities that are struggling to stay open to take care of our most vulnerable. Rural in general, their ability to operate on thin operating margins, their own workforce problems, and their essential tasks that keep our individuals safe. We can't only function today on what feels good today because this is the biggest topic. We have to function in a way that thinks about the future and not just on feeling. Does this bill feel good in its current form? Absolutely. Is it going to feel good next year at the same time? I don't think so. Our kids' kids, the grandma that wants to stay in their nursing home close to home, the teacher that's trying to make ends meet that lives in an apartment with high gas prices, high food costs, that we're doing nothing for with these bills. Behind every line item and decision that we make is an actual South Dakota person depending on us to make a responsible decision, not just homeowners. Please support the amendment.
Are there any further remarks on Senate Bill 245H? Representative Shorma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to ask you to support the amendment for a couple simple reasons that the good the representative next to me just stated, but I want to expand on that a little bit. So we're really talking about $100 million, $110 million. We're still applying 60 million of that to property tax relief. This isn't shifting everything over to one side or the other. This is still making that the priority. But the remaining 50 million will go to things like we just spent, oh, and by the way, the spending that we did because we needed to take care of the necessary things, resulting in us having a whopping 1.4% increase in education funding for teachers and schools, because that's all we had left. And that took a lot of scraping and fighting to get to. So let me give you an example. The Emergency Food Assistance Program, that was funded this year, $741,000. Now, that reduced school meal request that we had, that was funded this year at $592,000. Extraordinary expenses in special education. That was funded at $682,000, but we could be looking at numbers much larger than that, depending on which students come here, and then the federal government mandates that we take care of them appropriately. I would agree with that, but we can't have $0 to do that. For the smaller communities, critical access hospitals at $1.3 million. Now I can go down the entire list, and there's $898 million that was appropriated and voted on by this body to take care of our needs, in addition to property tax reduction. If we don't leave any of this for us next year, well, if whoever's serving, they'll have to deal with how to fund those things out of thin air. Now, unless you believe that our economy is going to grow very rapidly, I came here this year believing that we had a strong economy and our economics in South Dakota grew. They grew a little. It doesn't feel like we're on any different pace than that right now. So I would hope that you would preserve a portion of this money for those things that we're going to be dealt with, that we're going to have to deal with next year, in addition to giving a $60 million property tax cut. In addition to the one that we just did the other day. I know county commissioners will have to decide, but those counties that truly are really being impacted will decide themselves that half a penny sales tax. Just remember, all the people that live there in that county that don't own property are going to see a tax increase. I hope you support the bill. Thank you.
Further remarks on Senate Bill 245H, Representative Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this bill not amended. The last amendment, E, is the one, that H, not H. I don't want the half. I think when we passed the other bill last week, you have to realize that is going to be by the county commissioners to determine how much they want to raise their revenue for property tax relief. Also, in that bill, it only goes up to $1,000. So once it reaches $1,000 per single family unit, that is all the tax relief that would gender for the people. And for our older people that are on an income, that might not be enough. We need this bill for them. We need this relief, this one-time relief this year. And then we can go on to when we have to raise our sales tax because it expires in the sunset, then that goes to them. So we are thinking of the young people that at first bought their homes, because my property taxes went from $5,000 to $10,000. And if that, I bought my house in the 400s. It's not a big, huge mansion, but for an older person, if they are living in a house like that, that's devastating. I can't even say it, but they're gonna have to sell their homes. We're trying to help our young people stay in their homes and our old people stay in their homes, because their young people are getting taxed out of their house that they first bought their house, and our old people just can't afford it on their budget. We have to do something like this. We have to use this one-time money to help them for this one time, and then the next year go as it's proposed. So please do not support this amendment. Thank you.
Further remarks, Representative Roby.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of the amendment. Just this morning, before I left my house, I'm pretty, when I'm at home, over the weekend we were wrestling with this bill, talking to other legislators, and when I'm at home with my family, I'm not really sharing the sausage making process aloud. But this morning, before I left the house, I said, honey, do you want a property tax relief, or do you want a property tax cut? And she goes, what are you talking about? I said, well, we got this bill today. It's gonna cut property taxes statewide. She goes, well, do we need it? And I said, well, no, we don't, but there are others in our district that have had some, pretty substantial valuation increases over the last 6 or 7 years that could probably use this. She said, well, what's the counter argument? And I said, well, the last couple of years, we've had a really hard time paying for schools, paying for our teachers, paying for our healthcare providers, and giving our state employees raises. And her immediate reaction was, why don't you do both? Why don't you keep some money back and give some property tax relief? And that was before I told her there was a potential amendment being worked on. So that was just an initial gut reaction from a non-political actor, my wife, and I'd urge you to support the amendment. Thanks.
Further remarks on Senate Bill 245H, Representative Schwanz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm going to stand in opposition of the amendment presented. The reason why is because I received a letter from my constituent. And if it's okay, I'm going to read that letter to the House body today. Representative Schwanz, it has come to my attention that you are proposing legislation for tax cuts considerations for South Dakota residents. I wanted to share a story with you regarding my own experiences on this topic. As a law enforcement officer, I am tasked with various assignments, one of which being serving civil papers, including matters of tax deed and bill collection efforts. On one occasion, I recall serving papers to an elderly widow that lived by herself on a family farm and was facing adverse action from the county in which she lived due to non-payment of taxes. She had fallen on financial hardships due to a fixed income and could not sustain household expenses, as well as her annual property taxes. Therefore, she was facing foreclosure on the property where she and her husband worked the land, raised crops, raised children, made a living, and contributed to society. That event struck me very personally because that could happen to any one of us taxpayers and residents of South Dakota. There has to be some merciful efforts taken to assist people to stay in their homes long after they've paid off the family farm or their house or whichever place they call home. For the purposes of her dignity as well as privacy, I have not included her name or the county in which she lives. But this exact scenario should take place and could take place anywhere within the borders of South Dakota. I'm asking you to take this story into consideration as you are proposing legislation that would ease the burden of property taxes. Thank you for your consideration and taking time to read this letter. Sincerely, a concerned resident and fellow taxpayer of South Dakota. I rest my case.
Further remarks on Senate Bill 245H. Representative Mortensen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, the question in this amendment is this. It's fairly simple. I mean, there's been a lot of politics, a lot of pressure, a lot of thinking about what deal and who and whatever. But now we're down to the brass tacks and an important question, maybe the most important question I will have voted on in my time in this room. And the question, I think, in this amendment is property tax reduction a priority, or is it the only priority? That's really what we're talking about here. Because this proposal, without the amendment, allocates $60 million one time, far larger than any other thing we're talking about this year, to just this transfer to these homeowners. And it allocates every single dollar from the 4.2 to 4.5, plus the growth forever, to that same transfer to those homeowners. I made this point last week, but I'm going to make it a little more clearly today. Oh, a vast majority, over half of the property tax relief, property tax transfer that would be done, would go to the 20% most valuable houses in town. Let me say that again. More than half this money we're going to put out is going to go to the 1/5 with the very biggest houses. Because, folks, this is not a pure property tax cut. As our majority leader tells us, it's about the spending. And if there was spending cuts, this would be a pure cut. This money is coming from tax revenues that have been collected. And last week I stood up on this floor, maybe a bit more excited than I am today, but it was because that was a tax increase to pay for this. This is just using these tax dollars. Let's think about that. Where do these dollars actually come from? They come from higher energy prices, higher utility prices. They come from people paying more for tires, people paying more for toilet paper. That's where all these dollars are coming from. And so now the question in this amendment is this a priority? Should we lower this by 1 full mil, which is what this would do forever, a permanent property tax reduction backfilled with these dollars, or should we use every single dollar we have, every single dollar of the growth in here that is plugged into these transfers that are heavily weighted to the top? There was a home that sold last year in Sioux Falls for $6.8 million. Let's say it's assessed at $5 million. The bill we passed last week would give that person $14,000 transfer. What we're talking about today is, if we don't amend this, another $9,000 for one person. That's how it scales so quickly to the high side here. And so let's take a deep breath here. Is this a priority or is it the only priority? You support this amendment, you'll say it's a priority. It is dropping it by a full mil for owner-occupied permanently. It will be noticeable relief that will start next year. It will reduce the amount of one-time transfer. But we will also ensure that we are good stewards of this state government. I want everybody to think about why they ran, who they cared about, what your constituents might prioritize. If all they say is we should take taxes so that we can make sure to send these big transfers to the biggest houses in town, then by all means, let's go. But I'm just telling you, that path is going to drive our state budget into the ditch. And when you come to talk about a rural nursing home, or providing for people with disabilities, or staffing a state prison that we know is coming. Remember, folks, this year, $15 million ongoing to staff the one in Rapid, the ladies' prison. 300 ladies in there. Everybody in this room remembers how big the men's prison is going to be, 1,500. 5 times as large as that. We have known obligations, and if we don't amend this, we are going to guarantee they are unmet. We have bridges that need replaced to the tune of, I think they said hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. I mean, we have things that serve every single person in this state. Roads support everyone. God forbid none of us wind up in the place where we are on Medicaid and rely on these nursing homes. These nursing homes serve everyone if they fall into that safety net. And I think it's okay this year, and I think everyone in this room can walk away with their heads held high if we amend this so that it is a priority and not the only priority. Please vote red on the amendment, or green on the amendment. Please pass the amendment.
Further remarks, Representative Ladner.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've been working on this for 5 years. It has been the #1 priority brought to me by the constituents and by the citizens of South Dakota, and we've hit a brick wall year after year after year. I go home and I'd say, you know, we got a little closer. At least now they're starting to listen. At least maybe now we can have formative reform, not relief. We need tax reform. People are crying for it. What you don't realize is that when your taxes go up, your assessments go up, your homeowner's insurance goes up incrementally to match that. So you're getting hit twice. Hit twice. So they're kicking you when you're down. We cannot predict what the future is going to be. We have no idea what the future is going to hold economically for South Dakota or for all of America. You know, I can't and I refuse to live in fear of what might be someday. Because today, this day is a someday for the people who are homeowners in South Dakota. When are we going to prioritize them? I've been knocking my head against the wall for 5 years trying to prioritize them. And every time, there's an offshoot, there's an off-ramp, but there's this and there's that and there's that. So over the last 5 years, I've watched us as a body, different members, some have changed, prioritize Medicaid. We have prioritized teachers. We gave them a 7% raise during COVID. A rural medicine, prisons, men and women's prison. Bridges, they're expensive. Staffing in 2 years. Well, we can't do property tax because we got to staff a prison in 2 years. Oh dear, the sky's falling. Affordable housing projects, ag grassland tax reduction that I got passed a few years ago. But we've never prioritized the homeowner. Ladies and gentlemen, isn't it just about time? What our fine representative from Hughes County said that, you know, this is, first of all, I need to say this is not a new tax. This is a tax that's sunsetting and returning to its 2.5 or 4.5. And so what are we gonna do with that money? You said there's gonna be leftovers. So after the property tax relief or reform is offset, why can't we prioritize that money towards the men's prison, the extra money? We have a lot of options here. But for me today, the only option I have is to stand with the people of South Dakota, whether they're East River or West River. They're in the state of South Dakota, and we're called not only to represent our constituents, but to represent the state of South Dakota. I vote red on the amendment, vote green on the bill. Thank you.
Further remarks, Representative Auk.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I agree with the representative from the western side of the state. When I campaigned, I mean, you know, heck, you start in this business and you really don't know what you're doing. But the number one issue was property taxes. When are we going to see some relief in property taxes? And there have been numerous bills, $200 million. I remember the last day of session, not veto day, the day before the last day of session, my first year, and I had to vote on a $200 million expenditure for workforce housing. I voted no, because it wasn't for property relief. And we had plenty of opportunities on this floor to give it back to the counties, to give them some property relief. And we chose to put it into workforce housing. And I almost felt like I got scolded when I went back to my county. Where is our relief? We're the ones paying for you to be there. Where is our relief? We need to deliver real relief to our property owners. They are expecting it. They are demanding it. And we have an opportunity to deliver what they've been asking for. Not cut corners. I serve on appropriation. We can afford it. We can afford it. And let's not live in fear. We just gave $30 million to airports because they're holding $61 million left over from that $200 million that we appropriated 4 years ago. We have held up our bargain with everybody else, Medicaid, state employees, schools. Where are our property owners in the list? They're at the top of my list. Please put them at the top. These are the brass tacks. Put them at the top. They're paying the bill. Let's consider them. Please vote red on the amendment.
Further remarks, Representative Chizmowski.
Might as well just go with Chizmowski like the Speaker does. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I stood in front of you 2 weeks ago, and the discussion we're having today seems very similar to what I had pitched and proposed to you. And as I sat and listened, I wasn't going to stand, but I just want to explain where I'm coming from, because I worked very hard on property tax relief. It was my #1 personal goal coming in here. And I agree that the owner-occupied folks are right now the loudest, because I come from Lincoln County. I represent those good folks. And as I look at what has happened there, you know, depending on the school district, one of the highest property tax owner-occupied locations in the state. So why do I even want to speak? Well, when I started looking at the bill from what was proposed a year ago when I first started, 0.8% was what was being proposed, and we voted it down because it was too much. So this year I came in and I looked at it and I said, you know, the numbers are getting pretty big for what is going to be refunded back. And I then included, you know what, let's prioritize our employees. Let's put them first instead of, you know, it really drives me crazy, not just here, but anywhere, when somebody says, well, yeah, let's just see what's left for our employees. Well, that's not a vision, that's not leadership, and that's not where we should be leading. So I included the big three into it because I felt that 0.8 was too big, so we whittled that down. We whittled the 0.8 down. While I was gone, SB 96 passed, and I always thought whatever bill we pass in combination with an option at the county can work. But when I sit and look at the math, and I did a lot of studying, right now we're talking about owner-occupied, but to be really honest with you, one night late, I discovered, you know, that 76% increase on owner-occupied. Yes, big time, the last 10 years. $450 million increase that our owner-occupied's been paying. But at the same time, commercial has gone up by about $250 million. They're going to be next in line, and I just don't want to give it all away to owner-occupied as much as I am one. There's the commercial properties coming. Nobody talks about them. That would cover the folks that live in apartment buildings. And then we would be talking about 100% of our population. So I'm here today to basically not change my position from 2 weeks ago and support the amendment such that we can preserve some of those funds for the commercial property taxpayers or wherever we decide that there's a priority down the road, because to me, that's just the wise choice to make. And we shouldn't spend all of our reserves. We shouldn't spend it all in one area. That's a good way to get really out of balance. And that's what got us to where we are today. So I'm going to support the amendment, and then we're going to see where it goes from there. So I would urge you to join me like I urged you to join me a couple weeks ago. Please vote green.
For the remarks on Amendment H, Representative Goodwin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, you're probably going to have to help me out here, Madam Speaker, because I'm not sure if we're talking about the amendment or the bill, but everybody else has had a lot of latitude. If I can have that same, I'd appreciate it.
We're on the amendment, but I will give latitude for you.
Thank you. Well, you know, I did have a concussion a month ago today, so I'm on my 1-month anniversary. So I might not be quite as bright as I used to be. Not that I ever was really bright. But are we talking about 3/10 of a penny and all this stuff we're going to do with that 3/10 of a penny? Are we really? We don't even make a penny anymore. And then we're going to say, oh, that rich guy in Sioux Falls, oh my gosh, he's going to get this huge benefit from it. Well, let me tell you something. That rich guy spends a lot of money. He carries a lot of our water for it. So this rich people stuff, and the representative that said that, he might even be in that category if we looked at his bottom line, but I don't know. Must not be, because he's always going after rich people. Them bad rich people out there. They're paying their share, trust me. So what if he gets it? But I'm talking about the person that lives in Custer County, or the person that lives in the town of Pringle. Everybody been to Pringle before? The Pringle poachers, heard of them? Oh, I'm not supposed to talk about it in the airwaves. He's got a $200,000 house that's worth $80,000, but you know, our assessments are way out. I'm not even going to bore you with the $500,000 trailer house I live in. He's going to lose his house if we don't do something. To say this is too much is ridiculous. We're going to give, if we can get, that's Custer County, to add the 5%, and we can give him the other 0.3%, he's going to get a pretty good chunk there. And he's going to have a chance, or she, to save their home. That's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at the guy that lives on the hill in Sioux Falls. I'm looking about the little guy. And let me tell you a secret. There's way, way more little guys than there are big guys. And that's what we ran on. You're not going to get elected just being for the rich people. You got to be the rank and file. That's what we're here for, is the rank and file. The other thing that we never talk about, and we're terrible as a state on, is return on investment. I ran home improvement companies for over 20 years. And if you want to increase sales, I'm not going to put you on the spot and say, how do you do that? Well, you double commissions. If you want to double sales, you double commissions. It doesn't sound right, but it's just the way it works. So if you want to increase revenue for our state, You give everybody more money in their pockets. And they're going to spend it. I had a little talk with the guy today, and he said he wasn't going to spend his. Well, what's he going to do? Put it in a can in his yard? Or like Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies, she stuck it in her underwear drawer because she just thought that was safe there. Remember the Beverly Hillbillies? But even if you put it in your savings account, you're investing in it. It's all going to go and help us have more revenue. I maintain that if we would get this passed, which we should, our revenue will explode. And I'm embarrassed to go back and say that we gave a 1.4% pay raise to our big three. A 1.4, ladies and gentlemen, is an insult. It doesn't cover their expenses. And by giving them a 1.4 pay increase, we just dishonor their position. We said they're not important. We really said they weren't important when we said 0%. But 1.4, I mean, it's like, let's just kick them in the shins a little bit. I mean, that's not going to take care of any of their expenses. Why don't we come back and have our treasury busting at the seams and give a 20% catch-up raise? We could do that if we'd have the courage to do it, and if we wouldn't be naysayers saying, oh, I don't know about the economy. What do you mean? You give everybody this kind of money, the economy is going to explode. It's going to explode. And that rich guy in Sioux Falls, he's going to add to it. He's going to add a lot to it. And I promised the representative from Brookings I wouldn't talk about being able to buy my kicker motor on my boat, so I won't talk about that. So I think this is an unfriendly amendment, and I think we should vote down the amendment and vote for the bill.
Further remarks on the amendment. Representative Reich.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, we've already talked about the new prison coming on board. Some say it's 20 million. Many people think it's going to be 30 million. We don't know how much that's going to be, but we know it's coming. We voted for that new prison. It was the right thing to do. It's going to cost a lot of money. What hasn't been talked about here yet today, well, my good representative with the birthday up here made a strong point, I thought. He said we've got $250 million in reserves. What we haven't talked about, though, yet is that second prison. Remember, we had a national consultant, corrections consultant, that studied South Dakota prison system. And they said, we've got to build the first one, and the second one's going to come right behind it. Conservatively, $1 billion for that prison. It's in the report, folks. We don't want to think about it, but it was in the report. They cited all the things that we've done. We're all in this boat. The new felonies, the truth in sentencing law that we passed a couple years ago, right, wrong, or indifferent, tough on crime. There's another prison coming right behind this, folks. It's going to be $1 billion. The reality of it is we don't know what's coming. We can't predict the future. 3 years ago, when we put this tax decrease, the largest tax cut in the history, we sent it over to the Senate. They put the sunset on it. We were mad. We did not like that. We were mad about that. Remember that, those of you that was here? How could they do that? Well, as it turns out, we couldn't predict the future very well, because here we are. And I guess it's a good thing they put it on. But we don't know what's coming, folks, but we know it's going to be expensive. Please support the amendment. Thank you.
Further remarks on Amendment H. Representative Soy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, the question we have today with the amendment before us, are we going to choose to protect the machine of government, or are we going to choose to protect the people? We've heard lots of nice stories about, oh, the money could go to teachers, the money could go to nursing homes. The money that would get held back by this amendment would go into the general fund. It could be spent on anything. It is not earmarked for teachers or nursing homes. It goes into the pot of government. Home ownership is the American dream. Having land, property, a sanctuary that belongs to you alone. Why don't we make it more affordable for people to buy homes so that that teacher can get into a home of her own instead of renting? So that the single mom can buy a home with a backyard so her little kids can play in the dirt. So are we going to protect the machine of government and hold back that money for anything? Or are we going to give it to the people who need it? Personally, I'm going to choose the people, so I hope you'll kill the amendment and pass the bill.
Further remarks, Representative Jensen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In 2022, I brought a bill, 1168, to give property tax relief to seniors. And there was a sweet little old lady that came before that committee and warned that she was going to lose her house because of the high property taxes that she was having to pay. And this is back in 22. Well, you'd know her son. Everybody on this floor would know who her son is. But just got word recently that she's going to have to sell her home. She's going to have to sell her home because she can't afford the property taxes. That's a shame, and we should be better than that. Please vote red on this amendment and pass the bill. Thank you.
Further remarks on the amendment H. Representative Wahlberg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It wasn't that long ago that I stood up here and I talked to appropriations about a bill that was rather important to me, and I think it should be important to every single one of you. We talk about property tax relief. That's great. We all want to have some. I've been working on it for 6 years. Last year, we passed Senate Bill 216 to limit the growth. This year, we passed Senate Bill 96. And now we're working on this one. We talked about other reductions that can save property tax paper. Somebody mentioned county government raising costs. Their expenses are high. Do you know county government has certain obligations that they are required to do? They have to fund the jails. They have to fund the courts. They have to fund court services with these people that could be on probation for various things. That comes through the sheriff's office, the jury trials, all that stuff. That is a mandate that counties have to do. It's not optional. What is optional is to try to fund the forest services so they can plant some trees, sell them, give to hospitals, give to ambulance services, whatever it may be. We talked about the elderly people. But I want to get back to one bill that I brought this year, that I tabled, and with the great assistance of the appropriators, this thing is moving forward. Do you know that there's certain areas throughout our state that are not being funded adequately with Medicaid? And those are some of our rural clinics, community health care clinics. Aren't they our residents too? Aren't these people going to those places? Because if they're at 60% funding and they have to come up with the rest of the money, and these clinics have a week to 2 weeks of cash on hand to operate, they're our residents too, aren't they? Shouldn't we be looking out for them? And so with your own finances, do you want to go spend all of your money right away to do something? No, you're kind of conservative if you're going to do something. You don't know what extra is going to come up down the road. Well, that's what's happening with some of these rural clinics, and they're in your area. And imagine if those rural clinics close. Where are they going to go? They're calling the ambulances now. They're going to have to travel a long ways to get there. Medicaid spending is up. So I just ask, yes, I want for the homeowner as well. But we're looking out for the residents. When we say residents of South Dakota, folks, these elderly people that are living in the nursing homes or living in apartments that are going to our rural clinics that are being funded at 60% are our residents as well. And we should not forget them at any point in time because they worked their tail end off to get where they're at today. And it's not their fault that health care costs are rising, and it's not ours either. But they did our part, and we should do our part today by looking out for tomorrow. We all can do that. We all can provide the property tax relief today. With this amendment, we can go home, and we can show that we did something for 6 years of a property tax study. I encourage you to vote green. Thank you.
Further remarks on Amendment H, Representative Ismay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was just reading this piece of paper here that's going to be, this is going to be affecting my District 28. I just want to read you a little bit here. The projected savings for Butte County is 13%. The projected savings for Harding County is 10%. And the projected savings in Perkins County is 8%. If this amendment goes through, you're going to drop Perkins' projected savings to 4%, Harding's to 5%, and Dubuque County's to 6.5%. That's shameful. I have to go home to my district and tell them that I'm giving the most populated county in my district 6.5% for a property tax savings. That's sick. Please vote red.
Further remarks on Amendment H, Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, excuse me. You know, I think of the 12 years I've been here, this is one of the bills that have caused me the most consternation trying to figure out everybody's viewpoints, because quite frankly, everybody's got some very good points that they've made, and I certainly respect everybody's position. You know, there's differences in different districts throughout, even within District 18, there's a difference of opinion as it relates to that. So I kind of want to go through a little bit how I've kind of looked at it as I've come to my decision. You know, one of the things I want to point out, you know, there's a real advantage of being old, and that is you have a lot longer history to go back at and look at. And, you know, I was back here in 2012, and, you know, I noticed in some of the information it talks about, well, we've done really well with this because we gave it a 7% over since 2019. But if you were here in 2012, you forgot about the 10% cut that was across the board in 2011. And so when you do those kind of percentages, as far as saying we've done a really good job, we're still behind in some of those areas that we should have never had, you know, to deal with. The thing that I guess that I look at in this situation here is there's an easy vote here and there's a hard vote. Now, the easy vote is to vote for 245 without the amendment. That's the easy vote, okay? The hard vote is to vote for this bill with the amendment, because what it says is this, is we recognize we as a legislature have an obligation to budget, to balance our budget. And we have to make those decisions that are not 30 days out, 60 days out, a year out, but 5-6 years out. And that's what we really need to be looking at here. You know, the individuals who are constantly telling us that we have to reduce their taxes, I'm not surprised at that. But they're also the same individuals who don't have to worry about paying for a prison, Medicaid expansion, paying for mandated costs that we have, our teachers, our state employees, our healthcare providers. They don't have to worry about inflation. They don't have to worry about any of those kind of costs. And those are things that, you know, we've set out in our budget. But, you know, there's another aspect of it, too, that we have to take in consideration as we as a body, as we're looking at doing financial type of things. And those are the things we can't control. We can't control if the president decides to do something with tariffs. Can't control what's being done on a foreign policy and how that impacts our economics. We can't control if there's going to be another COVID. We can't control those type of things. And it's kind of interesting. You know, I calculated, you know, some places are going to get $500-600 maybe as far as their maybe tax reduction. But, you know, if you drive 15,000 miles a year, our gas just went up 30 cents a gallon over a year period of time. That's $180 right there. Those are something that's out of our control. You know, we have an obligation and we have a duty to do these make these kind of hard decisions.
and it has nothing to do with the machinery of government. That's just, quite frankly, our job, and that's our duty to do that. You know, I know we talked about it'd be nice for the kids to, young people to have houses. I guess maybe a couple of us should have voted more for the manufactured bill that we had that lost by 1 vote. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. For me, I just can't see it in my heart to be able to spend all of the money out of the funds we might have, not knowing what our economy is going to be, what our revenue is going to be, and just to put it all in one chip and roll the little marble around to see how it comes out. So I'm going to vote for the amendment.
Further remarks, Representative Hansen.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, members of the House. I think we should vote with optimism. And I've heard a lot of concern about expenses that are coming due for the state. I get that. I've been around here a little bit of time. We've met those needs. When expenses have come due, we have paid our bills year in, year out, every single time. We should have hope for the future of South Dakota. This place is growing. Our reputation for freedom and opportunity is only expanding throughout the country. This state is going to continue to grow. And throughout all of my time here, we have actually met inflationary increase. Now, some years we've had huge bumps. Those are good years. Some years, you know, not so much. It's a little slower. But overall, we have met our statutory obligation. And not only that, when special needs have come due, we have prioritized those needs. That's what this bill today represents as unamended. We are prioritizing one of the particular needs that we see as a state. There's hope for the future of South Dakota. We should trust in that. Yeah, we've got expenses coming due. We will pay for those bills. We've actually proven as a state that we can live without this money. We've been doing it for a number of years now. And so we shouldn't be afraid to put it back in the pockets of the people. As my good friend from Custer Fall River and Pennington County said, we shouldn't see this as losing our grasp on this money. We should see it as an investment in the people. Because if we cut their property taxes, they're going to spend that money. And as they spend that money, it will generate more sales taxes that will come in for the necessary functions of government. This will, if we do this, bring in more money because of that to our general fund. We should trust in that. We should trust in the people. We should invest in them. And that's what this bill would do as unamended. So I would ask that you kill this amendment and go on to pass the bill. Thank you.
Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield my time to the amendment sponsor.
Representative Weisgram, final remarks.
Well, thank you very much. I would say I have listening intently, I will agree with parts of the opponents and parts of the proponents. Really, what are we talking about? We're talking about the amount of tax cut that we're going to try to favor our constituents. If the clamor for property tax reduction is real, then the county commissioners are going to hear it. And the fix that SB 96 offers will be real. And the amendment that you'll be voting on here shortly will just contribute more tax relief. As I stand here today, all I really want to be is responsible. And I don't feel responsible if all of this revenue goes to property tax relief. I think we need to hold some in reserve for things that we don't know what are on the horizon. And I will feel much more responsible if we pass this amendment. Thank you.
Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House. All right, roll call has been requested. The roll call requires the support of 1/6 of the members. Is the member supported? The member is supported. So the question before the House is the Wise-Graham motion to amend Senate Bill 245 with Senate Bill 245H. All those in favor will vote yea, opposed nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Mullally. Granted.
Thank you. I know, I had called her 3 times. Whoever baked those pies, it might have been Perkins, but wow. Thank you to the appropriators, and I just wanted to make sure that it was taken out of your pockets.
Madam Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Madam Speaker, there are ayes 31, nays 38, excused 1.
The motion to amend Senate Bill 245 with Amendment H fails. We are now back on Senate Bill 245. Are there any remarks? Representative Mucky.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There were a lot of comments made during that amendment process that I have some concern with, and primarily I want to make sure that I take off when we're talking about this. We're talking about policy, not politics. I'm speaking to you as an appropriator. The reason why I was supportive in this case of the amendment and not the bill as it is right in front of us right now is not that my concern is about, are we trying to fund more government? That's not the point. The point is when I see comments, even in the handouts that I've received with us, that there are countless ways to help the state with $100 million ongoing. I have a lot of problems with that language. When it comes to us actually having to sustain the state budget and make sure that we're funding our main priorities, big 3 being K-12 education, Medicaid state workforce, one of the things that will actually provide the most property tax relief of anything is funding K-12 education at a higher rate. By tying our hands for the future and tying the hands of future appropriations committees and this body going forward, I have extremely grave concerns about taking that $100+ million and not just, and I'm favorable in many ways to say, how do we help owner-occupied property taxpayers? I helped work with another representative on this floor to come up with a solution to accomplish that. But we are doing something that is permanent. We are seeking a permanent solution to a problem that fluxes. I'll say that again. We're creating a permanent solution to a problem that fluxes. And when we take this genie out of the bottle, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult for us to ever put it back in, unless we're interested in this body and raising taxes more, which I don't think is the case. Now, when I think about this as not just an appropriator, but as a resident of South Dakota, when you talk about young people, I might be an old man in a young body in an appropriations committee with you. You might see me as not very young, but I'm a newlywed. My wife and I rent. Our district in District 15, probably pushing close to 60% of our constituents rent. A lot of them are our young people we talk about. This helps those who have a home, and I appreciate that. But if we're going to talk honestly about who's going to help those that are trying to advance in our economy, the things that actually do help with that are the things that would help with down payment assistance, bills that we've rejected on this floor, things that will actually put money back in their pocket at the grocery store and be affordable, make life more affordable. So while I'm in favor, generally speaking, as all of us are when it comes to owner-occupied property tax relief, I want to be mindful of the fact that when we're talking about this is at every corner of South Dakota. It actually isn't. It's not. There are loud voices, and there are places where this is absolutely necessary, and I want to support that, which is why Senate Bill 96 was a more targeted solution to that. When we're talking about giving more folks a chance at an American dream, unfortunately, I'm afraid in this case, we're actually making a meal of our state budget for years to come in a very permanent way that we're not prepared for. And so with that, Madam Speaker, I ask you as a body to respectfully vote red on this. Thank you.
Any further remarks on Senate Bill 245, Representative Goodwin?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And now for sure we're talking on the bill, right?
Yes.
For sure. Well, I don't want to go through my return on investment speech, but it seems like the guy back in the corner there from Sioux Falls didn't listen to it at all. So I guess we'll just say he didn't listen to it. But this is a companion bill. This is a companion bill to what we passed Thursday. Now, the best companion I have, I can say this because my wife's substitute teacher at Hill City, so she's not listening. The best companion I have is my Chesapeake Bay Retriever. Now, that is a companion. If you ever had a Chessie, they are with you, they want to be with you, they want to touch you, they go any place you go, they go. And tremendous hunting dogs, tremendous, tremendous dogs. And I look at it this way. 245 is a companion. It's a companion to the 5 cents. It's going to complement it. And to say that it's permanent, God bless, it's permanent. We could tell the homeowners, you're going to get a 20% and another 20% reduction in your property tax. Now that's a bad thing? We're going to go back and say, oh my gosh, we did too much. We did too much. Don't elect us again. We did too much. We helped the homeowners too much. And guess what? You're going to have more money to spend. I mean, come on. This is a great deal. We should be having butterflies in our stomach. We should be jubilant. We have a chance to do something for the bill payers. The bill payers are the owner-occupied people of this state. We're not talking about the renters today, but a renter can get into a house a lot easier if his property taxes are less, and we can get these things turned around, the assessments start getting reasonable. So we're not looking not to take care of the renters of the state, but this is for homeowners. It's not for education. It's not for everything else they came up with. Let's throw everything in it and get everybody confused. This is for the owner-occupied people of this state that are the bill payers. We've never did anything for them. This is our chance. Please vote green.
Further remarks on Senate Bill 245, Representative Andera.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I am going to quote a famous American economist. Many of you know of the great Thomas Sowell. The assumption that spending more of the taxpayers' money will make things better has survived all kinds of evidence that it has made things worse. I have never understood why it is greed to want to keep the money you have earned, but not greed to want to take somebody else's money. The first lesson of economics is scarcity. There is never enough of anything to satisfy all those who want it. The first lesson of politics is to disregard the first lesson of economics. It is amazing that people who think we cannot afford to pay for doctors, hospitals, and medication somehow think that we can afford to pay for doctors, hospitals, medication, and a government bureaucracy to administer it. Despite a voluminous and often fervent literature on income distribution, the cold fact is that most income is not distributed, it is earned. The fact that market is not doing what we wish it would do is no reason to automatically assume that the government would do better. Since this is an era when many people are concerned about fairness and social justice, what is your fair share of what someone else has worked for? If you have been voting for politicians who promise to give you goodies at someone else's expense, then you have no right to complain when they take your money and give it to someone else, including themselves. The welfare state is the oldest con game in the world. First, you take people's money away quietly, and then you give some of it back to them flamboyantly. That quote reminds me of what our job here is on handling appropriately and discriminately the taxpayer dollar. For years, 40 years, 50 years, heck, I don't know how far back this goes. We have had lobbyists come in here, special interest groups come in here, give of taxpayer money. When are we going to give something back to them? They have been holding the responsibility of all of these different pet projects, need I say, one stop, whatever you want to call it. Tons of money going into these projects, and they didn't vote for it. They had representatives come here to say, this is how we want this money to be used. I think it is time for us to respect the people who are paying the bills and give some money back to them. They can do with it what they want. We need something permanent. There are people suffering, and I am going to support this bill. Vote green.
Further remarks, Representative Schaefbauer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, I've heard a lot of, we can't afford this, we can't afford that, we need to give back to this, we need to give back to that. I've heard about the so-called rich in this state buying these big, beautiful houses. Well, I say good for them. I'm totally okay with this. I'm okay with people having medium-sized houses or small houses or big. Whatever their choice is, that's the American dream. One thing in all the speeches that have been on this floor today about this bill and the amendment, I have not heard one person say, let's cut spending. Whenever a bill has been brought to any committee in either the House or the Senate about cutting spending in our state government, it's always been defeated. Because, oh no, Medicaid might not get, we might not get Medicaid reimbursement. The big three might not get an increase. Airports might not get funded. Tech schools might not get funded for certain projects. Oh, we have big prisons we need to pay for. Workers we need to pay for. Nobody cuts spending, not at the state level, at the county level, or at the city level. We wouldn't have to talk about property tax relief or giving back to our citizens, because that money that we've collected here at the state would have already been in their pockets where they could spend where they choose, which is the American dream, to make money and spend it where you choose. You have a choice to rent, you have a choice to buy. But if we keep hoarding the money here at the state, yes, it will make us feel really good when we give back property tax relief. Why not just cut spending before we even have to ask our citizens for anything? I'm not going to say one way or the other how to vote on this bill, but I am going to ask everybody, just think about it before you say no to a cut in a spend, or when you say no to a bill that brings cuts. That should be the priority. Let's stop the spending at the state level and the county level and at the city level, and let's make sure our citizens have more in their pockets right away, and they're first, and we at the state will be last. Thank you.
Any further remarks on Senate Bill 245, Representative Norstrup?
Thank you. I'm going to speak on a really simple concept. The simple concept is the American dream. As I look at Senate Bill 245, I'm a business owner. I will pay more in taxes if this bill goes through. I'm going to vote for it. The reason I'm going to vote for it is the American dream. The American dream is important, and the foundation of the American dream is owning a home. And a lot of good things happen when you own a home. You're less likely to commit a crime. You're less likely to move. Why is that important? You're less likely to take your kid out of school and move him to a new school and disrupt his life. You're more likely to be a volunteer on the soccer team as a coach. You're more likely to pay taxes. There are all kinds of good things that happen. When you are a homeowner, you've got skin in the game, and it's not a good thing to go to jail, because when you go to jail, your house won't be there anymore. So you will not do crime like you do if you're a non-homeowner. So there are so many ripple effects if we can get a higher percentage of people in homeowners. I was a big supporter of the bill that the good representative from the Pierre area did on manufactured housing. And the reason I did that was it reinforces home ownership. And real simple economics, when you can lower the price of a product, more people will buy it. Vote yes to get more people into the American dream. And that part of that is the families are more stable, the families are happier, the families are more productive. It's just an all-around winner. Thank you. Vote green.
Any further remarks on Senate Bill 245? Representative Rayfeld.
Well, I'm not going to stand here and talk for a whole lot, but I really wanted to address some of the comments that were made from the back of the room. And one of the most disappointing parts that I heard is that, spending money on ongoing expenses that pays for our obligations in state government is a pet project. I reject that notion. Taking care of our teachers and our state employees and the vulnerable populations in our state, which are our responsibilities within this body right here today, is not a pet project. It is a core function of government. Now, if you want to separate the two and talk about one-time versus ongoing, I'm not sure if we need to have that discussion on the floor, but today we're talking about ongoing spending. We are not talking about airports and buildings that are one-time spenders. We are talking about ongoing spending for the next foreseeable future that we are now allocating and saying, is the home builder the priority now and forever? And the answer seems to be in this room that yes, it is. And that's fine if you want to make that decision today. That is not the decision that I'm making. Because we do have obligations beyond property owners. They're the loudest at the moment. They happen to be the loudest. But guess what? Who's going to be the loudest next year? Guarantee it's somebody else. I'll be voting no, and I know I'm not convincing anybody differently. But I had to stand up and say that we cannot on this floor say that the core obligations of government are a pet project. They are not.
Any further remarks? Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, I would just remind the body that teachers and state employees live in houses too. And when they pay less in taxes, that's the same thing as getting a raise, isn't it? If you're a Republican, that was what Ronald Reagan talked about, letting people keep more of their money as a foundational thing of what we believe in. I hope we'll vote that way today and pass 245.
Further remarks on Senate Bill 245? Any further remarks? Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too rise in support of 245. A couple weeks ago, I got a call from a constituent. You know how you get those little yellow, white pieces of paper on your desk? So I called him, and I don't think I can adequately describe his voice, but between panic and on the verge of tears. And I'm going to call him Bob. That's not his name, but he's been in his home for decades, in his 70s, and he's concerned he's going to lose his home. And so right away, I'm trying to figure out how can we help him. I'm going to the Department of Revenue website and trying to figure out if he'll qualify for some relief. And I just want to say to anyone who's listening right now, please, if you're in that situation, please go to the Department of Revenue and see if you qualify for any programs we have right now. And there is a deadline, it's April 1st, and talk to your county and see if you can get some help. I can't even describe how that makes you feel to know that there's someone out there who's been in their home for decades, who's struggling, and who is truly afraid they're going to lose their home. So I'm going to support this bill today. I know that as an appropriator, we're also funding other things. We're looking at, trying to address all the needs of government, but I do think that we need to address owner-occupied housing and I think this is a great first step. Thank you.
Further remarks, Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I defer my time to the bill's main sponsor.
Any final remarks, Representative Hansen?
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker, members of the House. I really appreciate the conversation on this bill today. I know that there's a lot of concern about the future, about our obligations that we do need to meet, and we will meet those. But I think we should be optimistic about what we're doing here today. This is our shot. This is our shot to answer the call of the people on property tax relief, and then move forward and meet the needs that others have identified today as concerns. It's not an either or. It's not an either or. Today, with 245, we can help the property taxpayers in the state who desperately, desperately need it. And then I trust fully that this state is going to continue to grow and that we are going to be able to meet the needs of our core obligations of this state. I have zero doubt in my mind about that. This is our chance. This is our chance to bring about the needed property tax relief for the people of our state, and I hope that you'll support it. Thank you very much.
Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of Senate Bill 245. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Madam Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Madam Speaker, there are ayes 42, nays 27, excused 1.
Senate Bill 245, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members-elect, is hereby declared passed. Are there any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
Senate Bill 106, an act to modify the amount required to be set aside for extraordinary expenses incurred in providing special education programs.
Senate Bill 106, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Overweg.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 106 increases the amount of funding reserved each year to help school districts cover extraordinary special education expenses. These funds assist districts when they incur unusually high costs to provide legally required services to students with disabilities. 106 will move it from $4 million annually to $5 million annually. The bill does not create a new or one-time appropriation. Instead, it modifies an ongoing statutory set-aside within the existing special education state aid appropriation. These funds will be used these will only be used for extraordinary expenses when it comes to our special needs. The reserve cap total may not exceed $5.5 million. School districts occasionally face significant unpredictable costs related to providing specialized services required under state and federal law. These costs may include anything from specialized placements, intensive therapies or services, individualized supports for high-need students. Now, there's my little speech I had to read. I want to talk to you a little bit about on a personal side and why I decided to carry this bill for the appropriators. I think the way we fund special education in this state is not right. I think there's a better way. I haven't been able to put my finger on it yet, but hopefully I will someday. But until we do, we are mandated by law to take care of this and to pay these bills. And when these schools get these special needs kids, these extraordinary kids in there, they have to take care of them. They have no choice. And it can bring cost, and it can catch them with their guard down. Yes, some schools have more money than they need, but some schools run into a problem. And this is where this fund comes, and they can go to it and they can apply to it. It's not perfect, but it is our job. So I ask you to please vote green.
Further remarks on Senate Bill 106. Representative Whitman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would just like to echo the comments of the previous speaker. This is an issue that he and I have worked on together over the years, and I know I've shared with this body. My younger brother was a beneficiary of programs that relied on special education funding when I was born and raised growing up in Minnesota. These dollars are so important, especially for our rural communities as they're supporting special education students, and I would just urge your green vote. Thank you.
Further remarks on Senate Bill 106. Are there any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of Senate Bill 106. All those in favor will vote yea, those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Gosh.
Personal privilege, please.
Granted.
I just wanted the House to draw their attention. It's been a while, but it is Representative Hughes' birthday today, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Mucky votes aye.
Representative Heineman. Granted.
Thank you, members of the body. I'd just like to call your attention to the commemoration at the bottom of your schedule. This last year, unfortunately, we lost a member of the Flandreau community, and I'd like to just draw your attention to that. Casey Joe Wilson, who was a proud member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. He loved life. He carried with him a deep appreciation for the people and the places that helped form the man that he was. And certainly, Casey Wilson gave so much of himself, his family and friends and community, and in return, the legislature extends its sincerest condolences to his family. So, thank you.
Madam Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Madam Speaker, there were ayes 54, nays 15, excused 1.
Senate Bill 106, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members-elect, is hereby declared passed. Are there any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
Senate Bill 119, an act to create the Capital Restoration Fund and to transfer monies thereto.
Senate Bill 119, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks?
Madam Speaker.
Representative Derby.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know what? I would just like to have everybody take a deep breath, lean back. We've had a big bill today, and look at this beautiful Capitol and the room we're in. This is a special place. And eventually, we're going to need to do some work on the building. We have appropriated money in the past for the interior, but someday there's going to be some big projects and needs. And so what this bill does is create the Capital Restoration Fund. We put some seed money in it, 1.1 million. That came from the School and Public Lands, and they had a public buildings fund that had $1.2 million sitting in it and hadn't been used for 4 years. So we swept that money and put that into this fund, and that's seed capital. Eventually, someday, there'll be much bigger amounts, but we wanted to set the stage for this. Thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Further remarks? On Senate Bill 119. Any further remarks? Seeing no further remarks, question before the House is final passage. Senate Bill 119. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Arlen.
Could I get a personal privilege, please?
Granted.
And if Representative Mullally's husband could just stay for a couple more minutes, I'd appreciate it. You know, we have a fun tradition on this House floor of giving retirement speeches for our members who have termed out. These speeches aren't supposed to start until tomorrow, but I did get permission from our good assistant leader to start one day early. I have the privilege of getting to talk about the good representative, Miss Mullally from the Valley today. So, Representative, and I'm going to use it, our good assistant leader came up to me the other day and he goes, "Hey, I've kind of noticed you and Tina have become friends." Sorry for using a name, I apologize. I said, "Yeah, we really have. We've sat by each other all 4 years I've been in the House, and we've really gotten to know each other, and I have a lot of respect for her." He's like, "Would you like to give her speech?" I said, "I would be honored to." So I want to tell this body, when I decided I wanted to be friends with Miss Mullally, I was a new legislator. I was in week 2 maybe, and I had not given a speech on the House floor yet. And I had a bill on consent, and of course she's gonna pull it. And I was so nervous because I hadn't spoken yet. And so I found her and I said, "Is there any way you tell me why you're gonna pull it?" She goes, "I just have some questions for you." And I looked at her and I said, "I haven't spoken on the floor yet. I'm really nervous. Will you please tell me what the questions are going to be ahead of time so I don't get embarrassed?" And she grabbed my hand and she looked me in the eye and she said, "I would never embarrass you." And that is when she taught me the lesson that it is important in this building to be hard on the bills but not on the people. Important to be hard on the bills and not on the people. And there's nobody in this body that has done that better than her. She reads every bill. She thinks about every bill before she votes. And I just have a lot of respect for her that even when we vote differently, she typically lifts this up, we talk to each other, and sometimes we even fist bump when we vote the same. So as she is getting ready to retire from being in the legislature, I think we can all think of the wonderful lessons she has taught us. She makes sure that our pages every year read the Butterfly book about the small effect that can ripple out. And I just want her to know from the bottom of my heart, she has had the most wonderful and beautiful butterfly effect on my life. So thank you, Ms. Mullally.
Representative Andera, Representative Goodwin, Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 53, nays 16, excused
Representative
1.
Rayfeld. Rayfeld votes no.
Rayfeld votes no. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 52, nays 17, excused 1.
Senate Bill 119, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct. We're not quite done yet, but the speaker is going to sign a few bills in open session. This won't take long. Speaker is signing House Bill 124, an act to temporarily prohibit the manufacture, sale, and distribution of any product containing cell-cultured protein and to provide a penalty therefor. Speaker is signing Senate Bill 40, an act to revise the compliance requirements for limitations on foreign ownership of agricultural land. Speaker is signing House Bill 1300, an act to exempt victims of human trafficking or domestic abuse from certain clemency notice requirements. Speaker is signing House Bill 1280, an act to increase penalties for the operation of drones over certain facilities and to provide for mitigation techniques and countermeasures. And the Speaker is signing Senate Bill 164, an act to require that any holder of a commercial driver's license in the state must be proficient in the English language and to provide a penalty therefor.
Senate Bill 121, an act to transfer monies and make an appropriation for the replacement of the Richmond Lake Dam and spillway and to declare an emergency.
Senate Bill 121, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks, Representative Northrup?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the things we've learned as we went off to places like NCSL or CSG is we're sitting around a table talking to other legislators from throughout the nation. They start talking about a hog house bill, or we're going to hog that bill. And that was a historic part of, that's a part of the history of the South Dakota legislature. And what the history is most of you know it, but I'll just give you the short version. In the very last days of a session, a hog house, a swine house, burned down at SDSU. And all the deadlines have passed. And they wanted to build a hog house, but they had no options within the rules of the body. So what they ended up doing was taking a bill and amending it. And the way they amended it was the bill number stayed the same, the sponsor stayed the same, and everything else changed, and that became a hog house, and that vocabulary went nationwide. Well, today we're at a historic moment also in the legislature, just like we were at the hog house. Today, we're going to talk about a dam bill. So someday you may be sitting at one of these national conventions, and you'll hear, I predict this will absolutely come true. You'll be sitting around talking to other legislators, and they will talk about the dam bill. And this is the day that this happened. So that's the fun story. Now to go to the more serious stuff. We've been trying to build, we've got a high hazard dam in Brown County. And basically the definition of a high hazard dam is potential loss of life and significant property damage. So we've been working on that for years, and it takes an incredible amount of time working with the federal government through FEMA and the appropriation process and the state engineers and the design people and the bidding process. But anyway, the bids came in last Wednesday afternoon. And to our surprise, the dollar amount that we were expecting didn't happen. It came in about $8.8 million higher. So we've been scrambling since Wednesday afternoon. And we've had a lot of people involved. We've had the executive branch, the legislative branch, the state engineer, the bidders, and we're trying to find a solution. And the best solution we got is what I'm going to present to you today. What I would appreciate if you do is vote yes on SB 121. And what SB 121 does, it allocates $101 to rebuild the dam in Brown County. And then the further plan is that's been amended from the Senate version. And so when a bill's been amended between the House and the Senate and they both pass, we end up at conference committee. And so the conference committee will happen on veto day. That's very unusual, but it's necessary, just like the Hog House was necessary. And just a little bit of fun trivia. Some of you are wondering, can you do that? In my legislative career, I introduced a bill on veto day and got it passed through both houses and headed to the governor. So it can be done. So anyway, would appreciate a yes vote. You're not signing off as your final approval. What you're saying is, let's keep the conversation going. Let's look at the facts on veto day, and let's make a final decision on veto day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 121. Representative Manhart.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I have to admit I have a little conflict of interest with this bill. I live downstream of this dam, so I would urge you to vote yes so we can fix this dam. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to support this bill today, but I do rise just to bring some awareness to this issue. I mean, we've been dealing with this for a number of years, and it seems like every year we pass a bill, it's always going to be the last one, right? Last time we need more money for this dam. And so I stand today to compel the interested parties in the area to also step forward with funding. I know this is a threat to the Aberdeen City. It'd be nice to see them invest in this infrastructure. Brown County, it'd be nice to see them invest in this. We keep hearing about all these nice homes around this lake that they're worried about their values and things like that. Do they have an HOA? Are they willing to invest to save their lake generally? So I'm going to support the bill, but it'd be nice to see as a state if the local effort would step forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 121. Any further remarks? Anything in closing, Representative Northrup? Seeing no further remarks, question before the House is final passage of Senate Bill 121. Due to the appropriation and emergency clause, Senate Bill 121 does require a 2/3 vote. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote. Representative Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Up in the audience to my left is a former benchmate of mine, former legislator Caleb Weiss and his wife. And during our time together as benchmates, he was a moderating influence. Obviously, I don't have that in the last couple of years, but I'd like to see him come back, but give it up for Caleb Weiss, if you would. Thank you.
Representative Fitzgerald. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 66, nays 3, excused 1.
Senate Bill 121, having received the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
Senate Bill 219, an act to require that a state agency consult with the Aeronautics Commission prior to purchasing, transferring, or disposing of a state-owned and operated aircraft.
Senate Bill 219, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Goodwin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill comes to us with all stakeholders wanting to, getting together and wanting to pass it. I talked to the Secretary of the Department of Transportation. He thought it was necessary. It kind of came to fruition when we went to purchase the aircraft for the Highway Patrol. And I thought maybe we should get somebody in there that's kind of an expert on avionics instead of just the regular people that work in the Department of Transportation. So they all put together this bill and wanted to have it, so anytime they purchase any type of aircraft, including any types of drones, that this commission can actually look at it and give them some, expertise as far as the aircraft industry is concerned. So it seems like a good bill. Everybody's in favor of it, so I appreciate your green vote.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 219. Representative Sharma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was in that committee that heard that bill. There was no testimony from anybody from the Aeronautics Commission that said we have more knowledge on selecting an aircraft for this organization. They didn't say that. They weren't there to say that. I think there was a lot of research that was done, but I'm not sure that this is necessary. Now, it was also rumored that the organization that looked at purchasing this aircraft didn't even know that the Aeronautics Division was interested in helping on this project. It doesn't matter whether they were or weren't. They weren't asked to. It just seems to me that I'm also not convinced that anybody on that Aeronautics Commission has purchased more than their own personal aircraft. I haven't heard anything different. So it just seems like another layer. Yeah, they should be consulted with if there's experts on that group. But I don't think it needs to be mandated or even suggested that they must. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 219? Any further remarks? Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm going to encourage a green vote. I was actually in the middle of this when we were talking about the airplane, and the Aeronautics Commission does need to be involved. It is made up of pilots, and they do have expertise. And so this kind of the ball got dropped throughout this whole thing. So I think just making sure that this doesn't happen going forward is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 219? Anything in closing, Representative Goodwin? Representative Goodwin in closing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I thought we kind of had a heated day today, and we were kind of wanting to kind of get out of here, so I didn't read all the letters I have from the different agencies that think this is a good deal for the representative from Union and Clay County. But it just makes sense, and the Secretary of Transportation wants it. All the stakeholders want it. It seems to me like just good policy when we go and purchase aircraft. And like I said, it kind of came to fruition when we went to buy the state airplane for the Highway Patrol. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of Senate Bill 219. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote.
Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there are ayes 67, nays 2, excused 1.
Senate Bill 219, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
Senate Bill 102, an act to modify the distribution of gaming revenues.
Senate Bill 102, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, if you like tourism, if you like history, if you like things that make us proud to be from South Dakota when you travel, places that we're known for, then you know about and you like and you appreciate Deadwood. And that's what this bill that I have before you today is all about. It's come through the Senate with a great vote. It came through House Appropriations unanimously. And basically what we've got is a situation where the tax revenue from gaming activity that occurs in Deadwood, it goes through a very complex formula. And it caps the revenue that stays with the city of Deadwood at the same amount, $6.8 million that they've been able to keep all the way back since 1995. And then after that $6.8 million cap is met, it distributes the remaining funds to the state general funds, school districts and cities in Lawrence County, and then funds back to the city of Deadwood. There have been several attempts to change this formula in the past several years, as some of you may remember. Some of them have passed here, some of them have passed in the Senate. They all end up going down in flames, partly because they created winners and losers, and none of those proposals really ever took root. And so we finally, I think, with this bill, have a good solution in SB 102. It simplifies the formula by removing that $6.8 million cap, and it moves it to a direct percentage of the total allocation to each of the entities that receive funding through this formula. The city of Deadwood worked closely with the Bureau of Finance and Management to make sure that none of the stakeholders lose any funding with this change to SB 102. Our state economist has endorsed this. The folks from BFM came into the Appropriations Committee and endorsed this. It holds everyone harmless that receives revenue from gaming activities, but also gives the opportunity for the historic preservation in the city of Deadwood to get some additional funds in the future as gaming revenue grows. They have millions of visitors a year on a population in that town of only about 1,200 people. So it's a big job. And so this is a good fix to simplify the formula, hold everyone harmless, and support the city of Deadwood on into the future. And I would ask for your support of SB 102. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 102, Representative Fitzgerald.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to this bill, the odds are in South Dakota's favor. This proposal is a sure bet. Deadwood Gaming has always been about more than the roll of the dice. It supports historic preservation, tourism, and local communities. This bill keeps that winning streak going. After covering the Gaming Commission's costs and required historic funding, the remaining revenue is dealt out responsibly, supporting the state government, the state general fund, helping communities in Lawrence County, and assisting local school districts. And the biggest share still goes right back to Deadwood to preserve the historic character that made gaming possible in the first place. Members, this bill keeps the cards on the table, protects our history, and makes sure the House, that's the people of the state of South Dakota, win too. It's a smart play. It's a safe bet for South Dakota. I would ask you to vote green.
Thank you. Further remarks? Senate Bill 102. Any further remarks? Representative Shorma.
Well, I just want to share a couple of thoughts. I was the past chair of the South Dakota Lottery Commission. Half of that revenue, 50% of that revenue, comes into the state coffers to keep our taxes where they are. Almost none of this does. Small amount does. The rest of it is the benefactor is basically the things that have been talked about here. That's a lot of money, and it's going to be a growing amount of money. I'm not convinced that it's the proper placement of it, but I'll leave that to all of you to decide. I'm not wild about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 102. Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This past summer, we do appropriations trips, so we go all across the state to see how the taxpayers' money is being spent. And when I was in Deadwood Lead, I was appalled at all the crumbling infrastructure. I mean, we make a lot of money, the state does. Our coffers are filled. It's kind of like the golden goose. And yet, if you go to Deadwood and Lead, it's they really need money to help maintain their infrastructure. So I strongly support this. I think that if they're going to continue to produce the kind of revenues that we're seeing, that they have to take care of their infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 102. Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, yeah, I wasn't going to talk on this one, but it sounds like we're moving a lot of money from the general fund to the regional needs. I was just curious with the property tax problems that they have out there. Maybe they should have considered taking these revenues instead of giving them to Deadwood, put them into a property tax relief fund for the area. But I'm going to support the bill anyway, but I just thought that would be another wise thought with all the property tax issues that they have in Lawrence County. Additionally, I do support keeping revenue local, so I hope in the future we can bring some of the wind revenue that all is going to the state, keep it in our local districts as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 102. Any further remarks? Anything in closing, Representative Odenbach? Representative Odenbach in closing.
Well, thank you for some good remarks. I guess I'd say with all that sales tax revenue that Deadwood helps us all generate, we'll be helping deal with some of that property tax issue now. So I'd ask you to vote green, and let's keep the golden goose growing. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of Senate Bill 102. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote.
Roby votes aye. Greenfield votes aye. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 64, nays 5, excused 1.
Senate Bill 102, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct.
Senate Bill 120, an act to make an appropriation for the economic development of South Dakota.
Senate Bill 120, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Randolph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It gives me great pleasure to make the motion to table Senate Bill, yes.
That motion to table, having been made and seconded, is a non-debatable motion. All those in favor of the motion to table will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine and the members will proceed to vote.
Roby votes aye. Greenfield votes aye. Representative Goodwin. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
The clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 66, nays 3, excused 1.
The Randolph motion, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elect, is hereby declared carried. Senate Bill 120 is tabled.
Senate Bill 222, an act to make an appropriation for eligible water, wastewater, stormwater, and riparian buffer initiative projects and to declare an emergency.
Senate Bill 222, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Representative Odenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I bring you today Senate Bill 222 because water is life in South Dakota. And as all of you know, I love to talk about water, and I'm happy to be working with Senator Carr in the Senate on bringing you this bill today. Water sustains our farms, our communities, and our economy. And if we fail to protect it, we fail the next generation of South Dakotans. This bill appropriates $2 million from the general fund for water, wastewater, stormwater, and non-point source projects, and $8 million for our ongoing statewide riparian buffer initiative projects. This is about stewardship. Small towns cannot carry major infrastructure costs alone, so this bill provides structured support with oversight and accountability from the Board of Water and Natural Resources. The riparian buffers protect our rivers and streams from erosion and runoff. They improve water quality and strengthen drought resiliency. Protecting water now is far less costly than repairing damage later. We are caretakers of this resource here in South Dakota. Our responsibility is to leave it stronger than we found it, and this bill does that. It had a great hearing just recently in the House Appropriations Committee. And we had proponent testimony from the DANR, from the Nature Conservancy, from Game Fish and Parks, from the James River Water Development District, from South Dakota Conservation Districts, the Farm Bureau, the Cattlemen's Association, the Association of Rural Water Systems, and folks that are with Pheasants and Quail Forever. We've spent about $7 million to date on the Riparian Buffer Initiative program. And if you talk to those guys that are administering it and the landowners and the folks measuring water quality, it's having real effect in the places where it's being implemented. So this is actually where the rubber meets the road and where money spent can actually improve water quality in South Dakota. I would ask your green vote on Senate Bill 222. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Representative Schubeck.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to speak in favor of this bill. Buffer strips are a great way to capture soil runoff, to capture any nutrients that come off a farm field. And it's also a great way to encourage habitat and reward farmers for their stewardship of the land. If you care about the lakes, the rivers, anything like that, we should all partner in that and partner with farmers and fund buffer strips. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 222? Representative Derby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to remind the body I rise in support. This was a high priority for both the Senate and the House. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 222? Any further remarks? Representative Shorma.
I guess I'm going to speak on every bill this afternoon. Sorry. I'm actually in favor of this bill. Riparian strips really do a job of keeping water clean and so on. My question, I have a question for the bill sponsor.
State your question.
I grew up in, and I grew up when we were farming fence post to fence post because we needed every bit of land just to make ends meet. How long, when we incentivize these farmers for putting in a riparian strip, will they need to accommodate with that before they can plow it under if they decide to later?
Representative Odenbach, do you wish to answer that question?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Well, I can try. I think each incentive contract may differ in its scope and its duration. I think that DANR administers this program and works with the landowners to come up with the best solution. And as the questioner said, it's not a permanent thing. So there's, in other states, has been said by others as we've discussed this, just mandate it where this is an incentive program. But the speaker, or the questioner is correct. It's not a permanent solution, but it's something that gets the ball rolling on this, and then it's going to depend on funding in the future or changes of state law in the future or just frankly changes to behavior of the landowners as more and more people realize the good that this can do, what you can do if you don't plow or graze right up to the edge of the water.
Follow-up or remarks, Representative Shorma. Further remarks on Senate Bill 222. Any further remarks? Anything in closing, Representative Odenbach? Seeing no further remarks, the question before the House is final passage of Senate Bill 222. Due to the appropriation and emergency clause, Senate Bill 222 does require a 2/3 vote. All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed, nay. The clerk will unlock the voting machine, and the members will proceed to vote.
Representative Jensen, Representative Jordan. Mr. Speaker, all members have voted.
Clerk will please display the vote.
Mr. Speaker, there were ayes 61, nays 8, excused 1.
Senate Bill 222, having received the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the members elect, is hereby declared passed. Any questions on the title? Seeing none, the title is deemed correct. The Constitution requires the Speaker to sign bills in open session. And so the Speaker is signing House Bill 1045, an act to revise provisions related to child support. The Speaker is signing House Bill 1108, an act to require the sealing of court files upon dismissal or denial of a petition for a protection order. Speaker is signing House Bill 1138, an act to require the licensure of non-medical home care agencies and to provide a penalty therefor. Speaker signing House Bill 1161, an act to amend provisions related to changing rooms, sleeping quarters, and restrooms. Speaker signing House Bill 1175, an act to revise provisions related to division of criminal investigation cooperation with Indian tribes. The Speaker signing House Bill 1138, an act to revise qualifications for immunity from prosecution following a drug-related overdose. Speaker is signing House Bill 1232, an act to establish principles for a state agency to consider when formulating or implementing a program that has the potential of affecting tribal members on a reservation. Speaker signing House Bill 1245, an act to authorize municipalities to establish a local funding mechanism for capital improvement projects. Speaker signing House Bill 1258, an act to require that a property tax bill provide access to a state website providing property tax information. Speaker signing House Bill 1298, an act to prohibit the electronic publication of certain information about a judicial officer or law enforcement officer and provide a penalty therefor. Speaker signing House Bill 1299, an act to permit the use of biological filtration systems in water recreational facilities located in certain lodging establishments. The Speaker is signing House Bill 228, an act to modify provisions for tax increment financing district. Speaker is signing Senate Bill 175, an act to require that an individual provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote and to declare an emergency. Speaker signing Senate Bill 151, an act to require the publication of the results of an election for precinct committee man or committee woman and to declare an emergency. Speaker signing Senate Bill 136, an act to make an appropriation for grants to support the purchase of personal protective equipment by volunteer fire departments and to declare an emergency. Speaker signing Senate Bill 79, an act to make an appropriation to the South Dakota Board of Technical Education to construct an advanced manufacturing laboratory space and classrooms on the campus of Southeast Technical College and to declare an emergency. Speaker signing Senate Bill 69, an act to make an appropriation for the purchase of a new Division of Highway Patrol airplane and mission equipment and to declare an emergency. The Speaker signing Senate Bill 44, an act to establish investigative subpoena authority to gather business records in certain investigations. Speaker signing Senate Bill 37, an act to make appropriations for water and environmental purposes and to declare an emergency. And the Speaker signing Senate Bill 36, an act to authorize certain utilities to establish wildfire mitigation plans and associated liability limitations for wildfire damages. Are there any announcements? Representative Fosness.
Yeah, on behalf of Representative Randolph, there'll be no transportation tomorrow.
Thank you. Any further announcements? Representative Derby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Joint Committee on Appropriations will be meeting at 6 o'clock tonight. Thank you.
6 o'clock tonight. Representative Overweg.
Thank you. House Ag and Natural Resources tomorrow. Recess sounds better. We're going to meet at 8:30 up at 414. We're going to meet the Leopold winners, and we're going to have breakfast. So if you're hungry, come on up.
Thank you. Any further announcements? Representative Jorgensen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Capital Commission Bible Study tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. in the Governor's Large Conference Room. Thank you.
Great. Any further announcements? Representative Overweg.
I just found out Lifescape will have a gathering up at 414 tomorrow. At what time? 412. At what time? It's around the 11 o'clock mark. They're going to have rolls there and report a little bit on what they've been doing to whoever wants to come. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any further announcements? Representative Baumüller.
Mr. Speaker, I move we adjourn.
All those in favor of adjournment will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. No. That motion carries. We are adjourned.